This is the house I was born in. That's where I grew up. That's where I was born. And I used to play here with my cousin. That's my uncle's house.
The story of Salva Dut is one that is full of sorrow, inspiration, and hope. Once upon a time, he was a young boy that was separated from his family during a civil war in what is now South Sudan. He had to walk for weeks with only hope that one day he will find his family again. In this video, we will dive into the remarkable story of this man and what he had to overcome to get to where he is today. Let's take a look.
You are watching the Untold Tales of Africa.
All right, in the fighting, as you know, you've covered many wars. It is the people, the regular citizens that often bear the brunt of all this, and you spend some time talking to them. Can you give us an idea of what people are going through there? And we're talking about tens of thousands of people, never mind those who have already been killed and their families in mourning.
The story begins in 1985 with Salva being an 11-year-old boy who came from a relatively normal life in a village in Sudan. He would find himself as one of the 17,000 lost boys of Sudan as he fled the southern region of the country during a 2-decade civil war. His journey began when he was in class and rebels attacked his school. The teachers told the students to run away, but not towards their homes, as the rebels would be heading to the villages and it would not be safe for them. During the war, a number of lost boys would die from hunger, thirst, disease, as well as attacks from wild animals and military. Salva had to survive all of these threats as an 11-year-old boy who didn't know where his family was or even if they were still alive. During his journey, Salva would meet people that were also escaping the war, but they didn't want him to join them as he was a young boy and would probably complain about the long walks and his hunger. Luckily, Salva would happen to bump into his uncle that he had not seen in a long time. He just came out of the military and he would have a gun that he would use for hunting. He had asked his uncle whether he had known where his family was or if they were still alive. Unfortunately, his uncle believed that his family had died as the village was attacked by rebels. Salva's uncle promised to keep Salva with him and ensure his safety as they made their way to a refugee camp in Ethiopia. Based on his hunting and military skills, Salva's uncle became the leader of the group. He told Salva that once he made his way to the refugee camp, he would return to Sudan and fight in the war. On the way to Ethiopia, Salva would also meet Buska and Mario. Buxa would help Salva get honey from a hive full of bees, while Mario was an 11-year-old boy just like Salva, so he was able to get someone his age that he could bond with. This made the journey much easier for Salva, but his relationship with Mario wouldn't last very long. During the night, some people would stay up and watch for incoming predators like lions that were hunting for food. One morning when Salva woke up, Uncle had some very bad news. Mario was attacked by a lion when everybody was sleeping and they found a blood trail in the area where he was asleep. This obviously shocked Salva and made him very sad, but his journey to Ethiopia had to continue. Once they arrived to the border of Ethiopia, rebels had found Salva's group and everybody was held at gunpoint. They would loot the group for everything that they had and tie Salva's uncle to a tree. What happened next is something that Salva would never forget. The soldiers would shoot his uncle 3 times, leaving him dead, and they would leave with all of the belongings from the group. Even with all the pain and suffering that Salva had endured, they would continue their journey and make their way to Ethiopia. Finally, they make their way to the refugee camp. Salva is hoping that he gets a chance to meet his family once again if they manage to stay alive from the war and made it safely to the refugee camp. He would be one of thousands of people in tight spaces, so being able to spot someone would be very difficult. Keep in mind that Salva is the height of an 11-year-old, so this didn't make things any easier. One day, Salva would see somebody that looked just like his mother and he would run up to her to get a closer look. Unfortunately, that woman wasn't his mother and he would continue to wonder what happened to his family. 5 years later, while still in the refugee camp, the Ethiopian government had collapsed and the refugees were ordered to go back to Sudan. Soldiers with guns would force people to swim across rivers that were filled with crocodiles and make their way out of the country. Salva had no choice but to swim across, and thankfully, he was able to make his way to the other side alive. Now that the refugees are back in Sudan, they would need another safe place for them to settle as the war is still taking place. As a teenager, Salva would lead about 1,500 of the lost boys from the Ethiopian border towards Kenya. He would have a long walk across the desert and have many hardships that he faced just like he did when he was an 11-year-old boy, but this time, he was experienced. They made it to the United Nations-controlled Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, and they were once again safe. Six years later, while Salva was living at the refugee camp in Kenya, he met a man who was a medical volunteer from Ireland. He would help Salva learn basic English. One day, Salva finds out that approximately 3,800 lost boys would be moving to America, and this gave him hope of a bright future. He would get lucky and be selected as one of the refugees to move to Rochester in New York State. He would meet his new family, go to school, and start a new life for himself in the USA. In January of 2022, a refugee would get in touch with Salva and inform him that his father was seriously ill in a UN clinic in southern Sudan. His father had gotten sick from drinking dirty water and walked more than 300 miles in order to get to this hospital. Salva thought that his family was dead and he had not seen them for more than 16 years. He would not waste this opportunity to see his father again and made his way back home as soon as he could. Back in Sudan, he makes it to the hospital and meets his father again. His father didn't recognize him at first, but after explaining who he was, Salva and his father reconnected after so many years apart. Salva learns that his mother is alive, but two of his siblings have passed away.
I say, "Hey Dad, how are you?" And he said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Salva Dut." And he was starting with emotion. And he sprayed the water on my body and said that it's a sign of the welcoming back. He feel like I was dead and now I'm coming out from the tomb. The doctor told him that he need to start drinking clean water. If not, he might get sick again and get some waterborne diseases again, and he might die.
Salva's trip reconnected him to the harsh truth of an everyday life of people that are living in southern Sudan who have lack of access to safe and fresh water. Water for South Sudan is a not-for-profit organization that Salva founded and is currently the president of the company. They aim to drill wells to provide safe, fresh water to villages of South Sudan, which happens to be one of the poorest regions in the world. I learned about Salva's story after reading a book called A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park. It is a very interesting read and there are way more details to the story that I didn't include in this video, so if you're interested in checking it out, a link is in the description below. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you want more videos related to Africa, please subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. My name is Asher, and I'll see you in the next video.